In the early months of 2018, deep within the cluttered office of a Colombian intelligence unit, a surveillance officer adjusted his headphones. He was listening to a tapped phone line connected to a known associate of the Gulf Clan, the country's most powerful criminal organization. The conversation started normally, with logistics, routes, and payments. It was the mundane chatter of organized crime. But then, the tone shifted. The voice on the other end was not talking about moving product or bribing officials. He was talking about removing an obstacle. He confirmed that a specific bounty had been authorized by the highest levels of the cartel leadership. The price was staggering: 200 million pesos, roughly 70,000 US dollars. In this violent world, that amount of money usually buys the assassination of a courageous judge, a rival kingpin, or a police colonel. The intelligence officer leaned in closer, his pen poised over a notepad, expecting to hear a name he recognized from the most wanted list. But he did not. The target was not a politician fighting corruption. It was not an undercover agent who had infiltrated their ranks. It was not even human. The cartel had just placed a $70,000 contract on the head of a 6-year-old German shepherd named Sombra. For the first time in the history of the modern drug war, an entire criminal empire had declared open war on a single dog. And the reason why will change everything you think you know about the cocaine trade. Sombra was born to hunt. In the high-stakes world of Colombian counter-narcotics, most dogs simply do not make the cut. The selection process is brutal and uncompromising. It begins with hundreds of puppies, bred specifically for drive, intelligence, and stability. They are tested for months in simulated chaos. Can they ignore the sound of gunfire? Can they climb terrified ladders? Can they focus on a single scent while surrounded by screaming crowds and machinery? Can they refuse food offered by strangers? Only about 5 out of every 100 make it through to become operational agents. Sombra did not just pass, she dominated. Her handlers noticed early on that she possessed a rare combination of intensity and calm. When she was searching, nothing else in the world existed. Not fear, not distraction, not exhaustion. When she wasn't working, she was just a friendly dog who loved a tennis ball and a scratch behind the ears. They named her Sombra, Spanish for shadow, because she became a constant, silent presence in the places traffickers thought were safe. By the time she was 6 years old, she had participated in nearly 300 operations. She had sniffed out 10 tons of cocaine. Let me repeat that number because it is hard to comprehend. 10 tons. That is enough pure product to supply every single user in New York City for an entire year. Her nose alone had cost the cartels millions of dollars in lost revenue. She was responsible for 245 arrests. She wasn't just a dog, she was a one-animal wrecking crew. The department called her a hero. The media called her a sensation. But in the underworld, she was becoming a problem that could not be bribed, intimidated, or ignored. And she was just getting started. To understand why a cartel would put a bounty on a dog, you have to understand the sheer scale of the operation she was disrupting. The Gulf Clan, also known as the Urabanos, is not just a gang. It is a neo-paramilitary army that controls the vast majority of Colombia's drug export routes. Born from the remnants of right-wing death squads, they operate with military precision. Their reach extends from the deep jungles where coca is grown and processed in hidden labs to the coastal ports where it leaves for Europe and the United States. They run their empire like a multinational corporation with logistics, security, and finance divisions. And the port of Turbo on the Caribbean coast was their crown jewel. Usually, this port was impenetrable. Corrupt officials looked the other way. Workers were paid off or threatened into silence. If a container needed to leave without inspection, it left. But Sombra did not care about any of that. She arrived at Turbo with one simple job: find the scent. She worked long hours in the tropical heat, inspecting thousands of containers. Her handler, Officer Jose Rojas, described her as relentless. She would check boxes of bananas, crates of fruit pulp, industrial machinery. She moved through the maze of steel containers with a purpose that terrified the smugglers, watching from the shadows. Nothing was safe from her nose. And for the Gulf clan, this was a disaster. They were losing product. They were losing money. They were losing face. They had no idea what was coming. The first major blow was struck in 2016. Sombra was conducting a routine inspection of a shipment of bananas bound for Antwerp, Belgium. To the human eye, everything looked normal. The paperwork was in order. The seals were intact. The bananas were green and packed perfectly. But Sombra did not rely on eyes. She signaled on a specific container, sitting down and refusing to move, the classic passive alert. When officers cracked it open and began to dig, they found nearly 3 tons of cocaine hidden inside the boxes. It was one of the largest seizures in the port's history. The street value was astronomical. The Gulf clan lost tens of millions of dollars in a single afternoon. But Sombra was not done. A year later, she hit them again. This time, she found over a ton of cocaine hidden in fruit pulp in Santa Marta. Then she uncovered another massive shipment disguised as auto parts, 5.3 tons. The losses were stacking up. The cartel's top leader, Dairo Antonio USUGA, known as Otoniel, the most wanted man in Colombia, was reportedly furious. His logistics were breaking down. His profits were bleeding. And the cause of it all was one dog. The humiliation was too much to bear. That's when the phone rang. The order came from the very top of the organization. Otoniel himself reportedly authorized the hit. The intercepted call was cold, specific, and terrifying. They did not just want her removed from duty, they wanted her dead. 200 million pesos to anyone who could kill the dog. Think about that for a second. That is more money than most people in the region make in a lifetime. It was a staggering sum for the life of an animal. It showed just how desperate the cartel had become. They were treating Sombra like a high-value military target, equivalent to a rival cartel boss or a high-ranking politician. The police realized immediately that they could not protect her in Turbo anymore. The port was too porous. The cartel had too many eyes. If she stayed, she would be poisoned, shot, or kidnapped. It was only a matter of time. The decision was made instantly. Sombra had to disappear. In a secret operation under the cover of darkness, police moved Sombra out of the danger zone. It was treated like a witness protection extraction. She was transferred 600 kilometers south to Bogota's El Dorado International Airport. The hope was that the airport's tight security would keep her safe. But the cartel's reach was long. Even in the capital, Sombra was a marked target. Her life changed completely. She was no longer just a working dog. She was a VIP under constant threat. Every time she moved, she was accompanied by 2 armed guards. She traveled to and from the airport in a convoy, riding inside a van with bulletproof tinted windows. Her kennel was guarded 24 hours a day. She became a symbol of the state's fight against the narcos. Photos of her began to circulate in the media. She became known as the dog the cartels could not kill. But for her handler, Officer Jose Rojas, the pressure was agonizing. He knew that one slip up, one moment of distraction, could end in tragedy. He checked her food. He checked her water. He watched every person who walked near her, because he knew the history, but the danger followed her. Sombra wasn't the first dog to be targeted, and she wouldn't be the last. The drug war has a casualty list that people rarely talk about, the K9 units. In the years leading up to the bounty on Sombra, several other top detection dogs had been killed. There was Kenya, a Belgian shepherd of immense talent who had detected 12 tons of cocaine over her career. She was poisoned in her kennel, a silent and brutal end for a hero who never saw it coming. The toxin acted fast, and despite desperate efforts, she died before veterinarians could save her. Then there was Negra, a pit bull who vanished without a trace after a series of high-profile busts. Rumors swirled that she had been kidnapped and killed as a message to her handlers. The cartels had realized that dogs were the one part of the system they couldn't corrupt. You can bribe a port official with an envelope of cash. You can threaten a judge with a photo of their children, but you can't reason with a dog. You can't offer it money. You can't scare it with threats. All a dog wants is to do its job and get its reward, a toy, a pat on the head. That purity made them dangerous. So the cartels chose to eliminate them. It was a shadow war within the drug war, a campaign of assassination against animals. And Sombra was the highest profile target yet. Her survival became a matter of national pride. But for other dogs, the story didn't end well. And she paid the ultimate price. The psychological toll on the unit was heavy. Every day Sombra went to work at the airport, she was walking into a potential trap. The airport is a chaotic place. Thousands of people, endless cargo. Any one of those crates could hide a bomb. Any one of those passengers could be an assassin. But Sombra didn't know about the bounty. She didn't know she was famous. She didn't know that men with guns were hunting her. She just knew the game. Find the smell. Get the ball. That innocence made the threat even more sinister. The cartels were willing to kill a creature that was just playing a game. It showed the absolute moral bankruptcy of the trade. But it also showed something else. It showed that the police were winning. The fact that the most powerful criminal organization in Colombia had to resort to putting a hit on a dog proved that their system was vulnerable. Their sophisticated logistics, their billions of dollars, their armies of hitmen, all of it was being disrupted by a dog's nose. It was a war of attrition. And Sombra was winning. Sombra survived. She worked at El Dorado for the rest of her active career, continuing to find drugs and continuing to frustrate the cartels. She never took a bullet. She never ate poisoned food. The security worked, but more importantly, she outlasted her enemies. The man who put the price on her head, Dairo Antonio Usuga, known as Otoniel, was eventually captured in October 2021 in a massive military operation called Operation Osiris. It involved 500 soldiers, 22 helicopters, and the support of United States and British intelligence. He was found hiding in the jungle, reduced to sleeping in different houses every night to avoid capture. When he was finally cornered, he told soldiers, "Don't kill me. I'm Otoniel." He was extradited to the United States and sentenced to 45 years in prison. His empire crumbled. But Sombra retired in peace. She spent her final years in a comfortable home, far away from the shipping containers and the armed guards. She died of natural causes, surrounded by people who loved her. A hero who had done her duty and lived to tell the tale. Her story is a reminder that in the face of overwhelming evil, courage can come in many forms. Sometimes it has 4 legs and a wagging tail. She beat the odds. The war on drugs is far from over. New cartels rise to replace the old ones. New routes are forged. New dogs are trained to find them. But Sombra's legend lives on. She represents the best of us, the loyalty, the bravery, the refusal to be intimidated. She showed the world that even the smallest soldier can make a massive difference. She taught us that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear collars. Sombra's story forces us to reconsider the cost of this conflict. We often focus on the financial numbers, the billions spent, the tons seized. But the real cost is measured in lives, both human and animal. Sombra was lucky. She had a nation protecting her. But for every Sombra, there is a Kenya or a Negra, dogs who served in silence and died in obscurity. Their stories deserve to be told too. The next time you see a police dog at an airport, don't just see an animal. See a veteran. See a target. See a hero. And remember Sombra, the dog who made the cartels tremble. If this story blew your mind, hit subscribe before you go.